Hi everyone, my name is Daijin. Today I'm going to talk about our paper, AI as an Active Writer, Interaction Strategies with Generated Text in Human AI Collaborative Fiction Writing. Along with the development of machine learning technologies, more and more researchers have focused on how AI could generate creative content and how it could affect humans' creating process. In the writing field, a lot of previous work considered AI as an independent writer and researched the characteristic of AI-generated texts. Due to the self-attention mechanism that is used in the current machine language model, the machine always generated some unexpected text for users. Also, the text could easily fall into loops, especially when generating long texts. When it comes to the collaborative perspective, most of previous works consider AI as the user's assistant that could generate some suggestions for users. For example, some researched how AI could help to fix grammar errors, or how AI could help to complete long sentences for users. However, few works considered the AI's potential of becoming an active writer who could collaborate with users and research users' interaction strategies with active writing bots. So here comes our research questions. The first is that what patterns of interactions are taken up by humans when they interact with machines in collaborative writing? Second is that how does the ability to select, edit, and cut out machine-generated text affect humans' machine co-writing process? And the third is that how do humans perceive the role of the machine in the editable versus non-editable interaction modes? In order to ground our study, we prototype a web-based collaborative writing tool where the users can co-write a short sci-fi story with a GPT-2-based text generation model. The tool uses a turn-taking approach where the user starts with the writing the beginning of the story. The users could then judge the output of the model to decide whether to use the output for their own writing or regenerate the output to get a better one. Also, they could choose to edit the output of the model if they love part of the output. After users write their own section, the model continues the story by generating a section that follows the previous one. The users and the models continue each writing section in turns until the end of the story. We also designed a web interface to help users operate our writing tool. The left picture is the initial interface that includes writing prompts, mod selections, input box for first paragraph, and submit button. And the right picture is the second page where the users and the machine take turns to write their sections. In the upper pink square, the black font represents the text entered by the user, while the red font represents the text generated by AI model. After the AI model generates the text, the user can choose to modify, regenerate, skip the modification to continue generating, or end the interaction. Users can edit the previous text and input the new text in the pink input field at the bottom of the page. To answer these RQs with the two described in previous slides, we conducted a user study to investigate the dynamic of human-AI interaction in fiction co-writing. The study uses a within-subject design, where each user had to use both the edit mode and the non-edit mode conditions when writing with the tool. They can both regenerate the text in both two modes, and the only difference between the edit mode and the no-edit mode is that users could edit the text generated by the machine in the edit mode, but they can't in the no-edit mode. In each condition, following a short demonstration of the user interface and the theme that they would write about, the user was asked to give a beginning of a sci-fi story about human finding a new home in space. Using this beginning, the user then wrote a 5-paragraph story with our tool in the first condition. After this, the user filled out a usability questionnaire and had a 5 to 10 minutes semi-structured interview about their experience in the first condition. Similarly, the user then wrote another story, filled out the questionnaire, and had an interview in the second condition. Here are some significant details of our participants and experiments. We had 9 participants for our study, and all of them were hired from university, grad schools. They had varied writing experience. 2 were novices, 3 had intermediate level of experience, and 4 were experienced fiction writers. The experiment was held on Zoom, and participants were required to share their screens and open their cameras. The meeting was recorded and transcribed. Also, they were asked to think aloud while writing. So here is the average length of the 18 stories we get in the experiment. In both modes, the stories were about 600 words, and both the users and the machine read half of the story. There's just a slight difference in the words written in 2 modes. After analyzing 8 stories written by users and the machine, we found several idiosyncrasies of outcoming stories. I will show a complete story at the end of the presentation, and here I just have a quick summary of our main findings. The first was that new twists, including new characters, new scenes, and new events, were more frequently found in AI-generated texts than user-written texts. And also, AI model will sometimes suddenly change the positive atmosphere in previous paragraphs into a negative atmosphere or other way around. However, even a lot of unexpected stuff was generated by the machine, users always picked something that was coherent with what they had written. This strategy was also found in our analysis of the interview and think aloud transcript. From the think aloud and interview transcripts, we found that users have different expectations of machine-generated texts. We divided users into 2 categories according to whether they have a clear and explicit intent about what they want to write before the experiment. Regardless of the differences between the edit and the no-edit mode, users who have a clear mind tend to have higher expectations of machine text coherence. They regenerated a lot of times and tried to find something that logically fitted into their story. Also, they could be more excited if some unexpected items that logically fitted their story were found in the generated text. For example, the story that I will show you at the end of the speech, the machine suddenly changed the positive atmosphere into the negative. The user kept the generated text and expressed huge astonishment and amusement at the paragraph. By contrast, users who did not have an explicit intent would have lower expectations of machine text coherence. They almost did not regenerate the text if the text contained any useful information and any new characters, events, and locations were good for them to continue the story. Also, due to the difference in their interactions between the 2 modes, users have different expectations of coherence and fluency in the 2 modes, like what was mentioned in the quotation from user 3 in the interview. Since users could not edit the texts, they tended to have higher expectations of machine text coherence and fluency. They usually did not accept the text if half of the text were good. However, users could accept text to be just partially useful in edit mode, even if the text just contains some useful words or just some ideas. We also found that users were amused when unexpected text appeared, even if they presented random events or characters that had no relationship with no relationship to what users had written. For example, Yu2 laughed when he saw his story turned into a Christmas story, but regenerated it by saying, "This is not a Christmas story." And some unexpected redundant text also amused users. For example, one user laughed when seeing the man in the open suit. It wasn't a woman. Also, all users agreed that at least some basic edits of AI-generated text should be allowed to make them more useful. The most common reason is that AI always generated paragraphs that were partially useful. However, even if some of the text in no edit mode had high quality and met the basic expectations of users, most users still felt editing was necessary. They always want to add their own voices into the text. From our results, we conclude several interaction patterns of the users. All users expected the model to provide them with surprising inspirations, and the unexpectedness could serve as motivations for users to keep writing with the machine. However, due to the limitation of the algorithm, the low probability of getting useful pieces from the model would frustrate users and make them compromise on the incoherent and tenuous text that conveyed merely inspiration. And the user's different perceptions of AI's roles in the co-writing process suggested different expectations of the machine-generated text and different interaction patterns. From these patterns, we bring up some inspirations for future collaborative AI writer design. We should optimize the algorithm to strengthen AI's strong ability of producing high-quality unexpectedness. We should allow users to utilize the unexpectedness efficiently. So the interface should display multiple outputs simultaneously and enable users to control more parameters to regenerate the text and somehow control the unexpectedness. And the edit function should be integrated into a professional text editor for users to both edit and save their work. Here, I display a complete story written by one of our participants in the edit mode. The text in yellow were written by participant, and the rest texts were written by the machine and edited by the participant. And this is my presentation. Thank you for listening.